If you had to point somewhere in order to locate God, which direction would you point? Would it be up? Would it be down? Would it be all around? Actually, there's a song that comes out of the Chabad movement, I believe. I'll sing it for you, complete with hand movements. Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is really everywhere. Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is really everywhere. Up, up, down, down, right, left, all around, here, there, everywhere. That's where Hashem is found. Up, up, down, down, right, left, all around, here, there, everywhere. That's where Hashem is found. So I would say that the song is a true song. In fact, the Kotzker Rebbe once asked his Hasidim where God was to be found, and so one of them actually responded with that kind of stock answer. He said, Melo kol haaretz kevodo, the fullness of all the universe is God's glory, so God can be found everywhere. But the Kotzker responded and he said, actually, no, God is present where we allow him in. And this is a fascinating answer when you think about it, because the Kotzker is hinting that there's actually several or maybe infinite grades of God's presence in the world, depending on the degree to which human beings allow God in. So sometimes I'm asked, where was God during the Holocaust? It's a very, very good question, but I respond by saying that if God were not present in the Holocaust couldn't have happened. And why do I say that? Because without God's presence, there is no time-space continuum. So there would have been no possibility for the Holocaust and those who played their various roles in it to even exist. So God, I believe, was present to the extent of lending existence, time and space, to the occurrence of the Holocaust. But it must have been a very minimal presence of God, because there was so much hatred and so much death and so much destruction on every side. So how could God really have been very present in that situation? Whereas if you go to the opposite extreme and you have a truly sacred space, a true space of happiness and harmony and purity, that is an example of letting God in. And God's presence is more fully felt, obviously, in those circumstances. But going back to the original question, where can one point to God? I would have to say that, first of all, I would point in this direction. I would say, if you want to find God, go within. We discussed this in our last video, actually, when we were talking about the full extent of the I, the I identity, ani, which is also very close to the Hebrew word ayin, which means nothing, the no thing, the fully expanded reality, which is divine. We have that within us. But I would also want to maybe point to a different place. If I were to point to where I experience God in my life, I would not only point within, I'd also point somewhere behind me. Because especially in the last little while, I feel that I'm being watched. And not by an outside entity, but rather I'm being watched by myself. And that's about as clear as I can make it for now, except I thought of an analogy that might make it a little bit clearer. We're all familiar with going to movie theaters and seeing the big screen and all the images that get projected on it. I would like to say that we, in God's creation, are like those images that are projected on the movie screen. And we have no sense that we are actually living a movie screen type existence. To us, it's entirely dimensional and entirely real. And yet, the person who has the complete view of the movie theater knows that there's much more to the movie than just the images moving on the screen. And so where is God in this analogy? I would say that God is the light that is projecting the images on the film onto the screen. And the characters, meaning us, living their lives in this screen dimension, have every sense that it's real, and it is real, but there's so much more going on. And so I feel that, in a sense, me, you, the synagogue, all of humanity, all of the universe, is a kind of projection of God's light onto the flat screen, which is God's material creation. and that if God is to be found, it's not going to be found in the screen, but rather one has to take one's awareness beyond the screen to a certain extent. And so I feel myself actually to be projected into this world and projected into this situation. And so I'm tempted to point to God as being something behind me, or something prior to me, something prior to my thoughts. And actually Rabbi Heschel, the great 20th century theologian Abraham Joshua Heschel, put it this way. He said, we make the mistake of thinking that God is an object, and we try to seek God outside of ourselves, when in fact we are the objects of God's subjectivity. God is watching and observing all of us from within, and we are the objects of His subjective awareness. Hope that makes sense to you. So if we want to find God, we have to be prepared to experience a different dimension than we ordinarily experience. God is not going to be found in the flat screen of creation, but rather in the light that is projecting us and everything in creation onto that screen. So I thank you for listening once again, and I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom and a beautiful week ahead.